I was blind.
Oh, there you go. I haven't been down there for, I don't either.
Well, I don't either, but I buy things for that little table.
I'm gonna start giving them some stuff. Yeah. I got a lot of Christmas stuff.
Exactly. I have about six of those little bands that they all play music. Carols. I'll have to keep changing them every week.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Right in the Dodge. There is a bench there.
It's going to be here.
I wanted to do a dogwood tree. And then I somebody's already in that. So above that, there's a bench and a tree. I think there's either 2 or 3 rows, like benches right in between.
That'll be good.
I think that'd be nice. Show them a picture. Probably sometime. Yeah. Yeah, well, you have to get the
Of course.
Yeah, I just did that for
All right. Yes. Thank you, Honey Lou. It is wonderful for the talent that we have here at Garden Spot Village that we have folks that share it. So thank you, Honey Lou, and your faithfulness here for us to entertain us, to welcome us. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to July. My name's Steve Muller. I oversee operations here at Garden Spot Village. Mr. Lindsay is out for a well-deserved weekend with his family and having some summer vacation, so I'm kind of standing in. So you'll have to put up with the B team for today. Just to share just a devotional and some things that I've been thinking about or that I try to linger on myself. I realize for summertime, I'm an outdoorsy person. I love to be outside. I'd much rather be outside than inside. I'd rather be going for a run than sitting at my desk, whatever. And I realized that we celebrate really well at Christmas time. We celebrate winter and, what happens in the holidays. And we celebrate harvest in the fall. And we celebrate Easter and springtime, a new life that happens in spring. But we rarely celebrate summer. When is it that we really take some time to think about summer? So I was lingering on that and thinking about, okay, well, if we were to celebrate summer, what would that look like? Well, we'd be celebrating God's creation. Because all around us, spring, things come back to life. And then summertime, we settle in. We know that, well, there's going to be lots of bugs. And we're going to have mosquitoes. But now we have cicadas. And then we have all of the wildlife that's around us and encouraging that and recognizing that. So I went to Scripture a little bit, and these are passages really familiar to me that I love to linger on in God's Word, but I think about in the book of Job. Job and his friends, and kind of his friends are after him and mixing it up with him a little bit about his pushback against God, or what they see as his pushback against God. But in chapter 38 through 42, at the very end of the book of Job, there are these wonderful descriptions of the majesty of God's creation. So if you haven't read that recently, or maybe you don't get into Scripture a lot, break out your Bible, read chapter 38 and 39. And it's actually God challenging Job and saying, well, who are you questioning me? I have some questions for you, and you're going to have to answer. Where were you when I created all these things? And then they looked at Genesis, and Genesis chapter 1, and just a great description of God bringing everything out of nothing. And 5 times, the writer of Genesis says, and God saw it was good. 5 different times as he's creating, as he's bringing everything out of nothing. And then it concludes in verse 31 of Genesis chapter 1. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. So the 6th time, it's reinforced that everything that God made was good. So I think about that, and for me, being an outside person, I try to get outside and I try to linger on that wonderful creation. So we see it in Scripture, that encouragement of, like I said, in the book of Job, or in the creation story in Genesis 1. But then what does that look like? Having that time outside. I know there's lots of bugs out this time of year, but what about the cicadas? It's the only time of the year that you get to hear them. It's about 5 weeks maybe, 4, 5, 6 weeks, something like that. I heard my first one probably 2 weekends ago, and I just stopped. I was like, well, there it is. And we get to enjoy cicadas for, into maybe early September, something like that. And that's when the crickets come out. If you're a cricket listener, some people don't like the crickets. I love the crickets. We always end up with some in my garage. And I'm wondering, okay, where are the crickets going to be in the garage? They never get into the house or anything, but I don't mind that at all, listening to those crickets when there's one in the garage. So I pulled out Psalm 104, and I'll read some of this here, and then we'll get on with our meeting. Psalm 104, this is verse 10 through 18. And again, it reflects some on the creation of God, and then sort of the detail in that, and how he brought it together, he knit it together, and very, very much for us to enjoy. So verse 10, he makes springs pour water into the ravines. It flows between the mountains. They give water to all the beasts of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds of the sky nest by the waters. They sing among the branches. He waters the mountains from his upper chambers. The land is satisfied by the fruit of his work. He makes grass grow for the cattle and plants for people to cultivate, bringing forth food from the earth. wine that gladdens the human hearts, oil to make their faces shine, and bread that sustains their hearts. The trees of the Lord are well watered, the cedars of Lebanon that he planted. There the birds make their nests. The stork has its home in the junipers. The high mountains belong to the wild goats. The crags are a refuge for the hyrax. And I had to actually look up hyrax. It's kind of a little guinea pig kind of an animal. It's not really a rabbit, and it's not really a hedgehog like we would know them. They're small. All that detail, all that creation, all those things for us to enjoy. So I'll kind of leave you with that encouragement, the chance to celebrate God's creation. Maybe it's today, maybe it's this week or this month. The summer season. Don't let the summer slide by without taking some time. Maybe you're traveling and you have a chance to get to the shore or to get to the mountains. Linger. Take some time. Savor it. If you're at the shore, listen to the waves crash. Watch the horizon. We had a little bit of time down in Delaware to go to the shore, and I just stood there, just watching the horizon. And I saw a tanker ship. This was, off of the bay there. And then I just listened to the waves. And our kids were playing and everything. And I actually went for a run in the hot sand on my bare feet, and that was awesome. Listening for those morning doves. What a neat thing in the morning, And that's not time to have the windows open now. Another 5 weeks maybe or so, we'll have the windows open overnight again. Listen for the owls. We have owls that linger in the trees overnight. I love to listen to the owls. So take some time outside. Whatever it is, however it is that you like to engage, listen to what's going on. Watch what's going on. As I drive back and forth to work, I like to watch the seasons in Lancaster County change. They plant the corn, and then all of a sudden the corn's 3 and 4 feet high, and it's going to tassel, and now the ears are coming. I passed some tobacco fields the other day, and you could see that they had planted them about 2 weeks apart. And I thought, well, here we are. It's the middle of July. We're only about 6 weeks away from tobacco harvest. So it'll get up and big and 3-4 feet high and start to turn yellow, and the end of August, they'll start to take it in. 2 weeks apart. First this, then that, then something else. It's all God's creation. Enjoy it. Celebrate it. Make sure that we take some time to linger. So thanks for being here. Let's pray. We'll commit our time to him. Father God, thanks so much for your wonderful creation. Thank you for your sovereignty over the lives we get to lead, this great community that we have here at Garden Spot Village. Worthwhile work for the staff, a great place of purpose for the residents. Lead us on in your sovereignty. Lead us on in your ways. Help us to think clearly about what you want us to do. We commit our time to you today. We look for your successes. And we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hello, I'm Lauren Graber, Director of Wellness, and I like lightning bugs. And that's if you're in this area, but I saw if you're from the West Coast, you call them fireflies. But they don't get a lot in Minnesota, and when my nieces and nephews visit, they get so excited about lightning bugs and catching them and putting them in jars, and then they die. But anyhow, love lightning bugs. That's my favorite part. So outdoors, there's some opportunities. The glow party, because we have the fire pit. The next one is Friday, July 20th. You just show up. Amy will be out there and make some s'mores. It's just sitting around a fire and sharing stories. If you like the outdoors, we have a lot of games outside, but people don't know how to organize them. We do have bocce, we have pickleball, badminton, there's putting greens. So if you have any questions, just contact us. Also on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 o'clock, we meet at the pavilion and go for a walk. Anywhere, if it could just be a short walk, long walk, you can join us for however long you want to, depending on the weather. We try to stay in the shade, and we found out there's really no shade on the paths around here. Sam walked with me, he goes, I thought you were taking the shady one. I said, it had 4 trees. That's the best we could do. So it was a little hot, but we scoot through Sycamore Springs. But other outdoor things is we took a group zip lining a couple weeks ago, and we're going again. And there's a couple other things we'd like to do, so if, like organize games. So I'm forming a wellness committee. If you'd like to help give some ideas, help promote or anything, we're going to meet. We met once, and a few people wanted to come, but the date didn't suit them. So we're meeting August 23rd at 11 down at the Wellness Room, which is right outside the pool, so that we can plan more outings like mini golfing, zip lining. We could not tube this year because the creek we tube at, PennDOT's working on the bridges. And if you know how PennDOT works, unfortunately, that's taking all summer, so we can't tube. But hopefully, they say by 2019, they'll be done and we can tube again. So anyhow, we're just going to show a few pictures of our zip lining. Who went zip lining? Of all of you, who would go again? Yeah, they want it to be a little bit longer, so we're going to do a couple courses. Refreshing Mountain has a lot of different activities. There's archery, so we're going to investigate to do more than just zip lining. Because once people did it, they wanted to go again. Luckily, we got to do some.
Oh, my goodness. I can't watch.
It was great fun. And those who got to go a second time enjoyed it more because the first time they were a little scared. Can you see? It's taking that first step because you're harnessed and then you're just kind of sitting. You don't have to be strong because your arms are not what's holding you up. It's the harness. You really don't have to do anything. Just step up. Take that first step is all you have to do. And these nice people catch you. They unhook you and send you down another zip line. It looks really high from those pictures. I know. Gavin was on vacation and just got back, so we haven't had a chance to edit. So we just quick downloaded these, so you might just see. Anyhow, we'll end it there. So if you're interested in helping plan some of these fun events, or if you have ideas, just contact me or join us on the 23rd. And we're looking to go ziplining again in September. Thank you.
Oh, hello, hi. Many of you know me. I'm Megan Farber. I work with sales here in sales and marketing. However, today I am talking to you to give you some updates and reminders as one of our 5 notaries here on campus. It's been a while since we've made any announcements about notary service here, so we thought it would be a good time to give you some more information about that. Many of you might not even know that we have notary service. Like I said, there are 5 of us, some staff and some resident volunteers. It's myself, Kelly Swigert in our department, as well as Gavin Souter in the marketing department. Barry Block is one of the residents, and there was somebody else, and to be honest, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting who it is right now, but they're Ann Mellinger, thank you, yes, who's in Village Square Apartments. Those are the 2 resident notaries. Appointments used to be made through the front desk, through resident services. However, with so many now, with the 5 notaries, we've just decided that appointments can be made directly with the staff or the residents that you'd like to make the appointment with. You can call the front desk and get a reminder of the names and who are the notaries and get their telephone number and things like that. They can even give you a clue as to who's around that day. One of the things that I'd like to remind everybody, and in fact urge you to do, is to call in advance. Not 24 hours necessarily, but as much notice as you can give when you're making an appointment is best. There have been times recently especially, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this update, where we haven't been able to accommodate notary appointments when a lot of arrangements have been made. Lawyers have been involved and family members have made trips and taken off of work and things like that, not realizing that they needed to make an appointment. And so we hadn't been able to accommodate, which is a real shame. It's a lot of planning on everybody's part. So we want to make sure that you do have somebody who can do the notary work for you, but that takes making an appointment, making sure that one of the 5 people are available for you. With that being said, when you are making an appointment, we try our best to ask you questions about what you are getting notarized. To be honest, a lot of the things that we do here are pretty simple, single form documents, but they can be more complex. The living wills and things like that, power of attorneys can be complex. What we ask you when we ask you questions beforehand, it's really not because we're being nosy. It's just so we can schedule enough time, and make sure that we're able to do the notarization for you. The notaries here at Garden Spot Village, that service is provided to you, but we are basic notaries. There are different levels of notary publics. Some can do car titles, which we cannot do. And then there are certain things like electronic notarizations, which we cannot do. So when we're asking you those questions, we are just trying to make sure that we can serve you correctly. One of the things that we'll ask is exactly what the form is. That's always helpful for you to know. Some people don't know, which is actually always really surprising to me. Usually there's a title or something like that at the top of the form that you need notarized. There may or may not be a space for you to have witnesses sign your document. We always encourage you to bring your own witnesses, to arrange that ahead of time and bring them to the appointment, whether that's friends or family member. Although it is not illegal to have this happen, we do really discourage staff members being witnesses, like just pulling a staff member from the front desk or whatever, just because it sometimes puts them in a position where if they don't want to be a witness, they feel like they cannot say that, and they're put in an uncomfortable position. So we do ask that you arrange witnesses. Most of the time it'll be friends or acquaintances that you have that feel comfortable enough doing that. The other item when you are making an appointment is keeping in mind how many documents there are to sign. We oftentimes, like I said, usually it's just one page, simple and done. That can be a 5-minute appointment in and out. But if you don't have us asking you, or if you're not sure, when there are multiple signatures on multiple pages, that can take what we have in our mind being a 10 to 15-minute appointment to sometimes an hour, hour and a half. We've had it be much longer than that, especially when there's multiple people involved and several copies. So letting us know that in advance is also really helpful, so we can prepare and schedule enough time to complete the paperwork that you need. A few weeks ago, we had to transfer between Kelly and I, me doing half, her doing half, and it was just unfortunate because it felt a little flustered for the family that was there. So that's always helpful to know how many pages, how many signatures, and the amount of time that it might take to complete the notary. Again, you can call 6000 not to schedule the appointment, but to find out who might be available and to get the numbers. But we are going to be, in this Friday's mail, we're going to be sending out a slip with some of these reminders, the things that you might need to know. That'll go out in Friday's mail, so you can put that wherever you keep your important reminders, but it's always, those answers are also just a phone call away at Resident Services when you call 6000. Thank you. Yes?
Can you give us an update on Scott?
Oh, an update on Scott? Sure. I think he's doing well. I've talked to him pretty frequently, and he was recovering in Cape May last week, so he was, enjoying the beach. I know he couldn't enjoy it as much as he would have if he wasn't resting a lot, but I think he's scheduled to be back in the next 2 weeks. Yeah, sure.
Good afternoon. I think Steve convinced me to put in some PTO time and step out toward the beach. I'm just kidding. Thank you for that, Steve, that reminder to really enjoy summer and the season that we're in. I'd like to touch on 2 topics today. I'm Sherlyn Lapp, Director of Social Services, and they're not new things, but just reminders. And the 2 things are our voluntary check-in program in the morning, and also the value of informing social services of any hospitalizations. So let's talk about the morning check-in program first. That's something that's been in place for quite a number of years here at Garden Spot. And what it involves is if you're in independent living and you're living alone, and would like the security of someone knowing, hey, I'm up, I'm okay, everything's all right. We have provision that you can check in from 5 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. every morning. So what you're seeing here is the homepage on Katie, and there's a check mark there that says check in. So if you are part of this program and you press that check in between 5 a.m. and 10:30, it officially registers you and we know that you're okay. What happens if you don't check in? You'll get an automated phone call reminder, and by 10:30, the social workers get an email with a list of names and residents who have not checked in. So we give you a phone call. If the phone is not answered, then we come up to your residence and do a quick walkthrough just to make sure everything's okay, no one's in distress. It's just a security measure for you if you live alone. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today is just that when we got the Katie iPads almost 2 years ago, everyone had a little check mark there. And so that created a bit of confusion. And those of you who were pressing that, it didn't really do anything if you weren't part of the program. If you were part of the program, it checked you in. So to clear up that confusion, Andrew and our IT department did an adjustment on the programming, was able to get that taken care of. So if you are part of the check-in program officially, you should have a check mark there. And if you are not, you should not have one. Okay? So for those of you who may wish to be part of the check-in program, it's really not complicated. Just come see us in social services. It's just a one-page sheet of paper giving us the permission to give your name to the IT department and get you officially set up to be part of that program. And it just gives you a few simple guidelines, but of course it's voluntary on your part. We would never sign you up without your permission. So stop by and see one of the social workers in IL if you would like that security. You live by yourself, and it would be helpful for you to know that someone knows that I'm awake this morning and I'm okay, and if I don't check in, someone will come check on me. So I mentioned that the social workers do this during the week. The weekend managers are responsible for this program on the weekend. So any question at all related to that program? Okay, very good. The other topic I'd like to touch on is the value of informing the social service team of hospitalizations. And that can be either a planned procedure or perhaps an unplanned. So it's very helpful for us. We like to keep everyone's needs on campus in mind. Let me take something for example. Let's say you have a planned knee replacement surgery. If you stop in and tell me on such and such a date at this hospital with this surgeon, I have a knee replacement, then I'll ask you questions like, what is your surgeon telling you you might need after your procedure? Are they telling you possibly a short-term stay in skilled nursing? Then, we'll keep that in mind and try to keep a room open for you if at all possible here on this campus or at Maple Farms, and we'll help to coordinate that happening. Or maybe you're coming home with home health. We like to follow up and make sure they have in fact come out to see you, and if there's any issues, we'll make a phone call and make sure everything is in order. And then sometimes it's just simply a matter of you need to borrow a piece of medical equipment. A raised toilet seat, a walker, something to use temporarily. We do have 2 big loan closets here, and I see some of you nodding your heads because you've used that in the past and it's been helpful. We're happy to go check out what we have and see if it's something that would work for your particular situation. You can borrow it at no charge for that temporary time that you need it, and then just return it when you're finished. So that's for planned procedures. And then what about the unplanned ones where maybe there's been a 911 call over the weekend for a spouse? If you just pick up the phone and let a voicemail for us saying what hospital they're in, what we do is we call the social service team in the hospital and just check in with them as far as any discharge plans and any needs you might have. The whole goal is to make sure that you're well cared for when you come back here. That's really what we want to do and why we would like the information. Of course, it's voluntary on your part to give that to us, but we're here to serve you and make sure that your recovery from whatever medical situation is going on goes smoothly and that you have all the help you need. Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike from Dining Services. First off, I want to just thank everyone that came out to my demo last week. It was a lot of fun. It was a good day. We sold more pork chops that day, I think, than we did the whole time I've been here. So I guess everyone liked it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about our annual clam bake. I love our annual, like our signature dinners that we do. I think we have, what, 9 now? It's kind of neat seeing it now because when we first started this, we used to only get about 10 or 12 people, and now we're getting like 40 to 60 people. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's just fun watching it grow and getting everyone in the kitchen involved. It's kind of where we kind of could spurt our creativity, so to speak, in a different direction. So on August 29th, I believe, is the day we're going to have our clam bake. We kind of model it after the New England style. We do the bags in the boilers outside. This year we're going to do our starters as we always do, the table starters. We have the baby crab Johnny cakes, which is like a little sweet corn cake with crab. And then we're going to do some zucchini parmesan crisps with aioli. Hopefully those will come from the farm. So. And then also the end of summer corn chowder, which everyone still asks me for the recipe from last year. And it's just a real flavorful corn soup that I just used the corn cobs for the stock. And then the classic clam bake, which is the shrimp, clams, lobster, potatoes, and corn. And then we just dunk them in the boilers. We do that with shrimp and clams for people who don't like one or the other. And then we also do a grilled fish. The fish this year we're gonna do straight bass or rockfish. Harissa grilled rockfish. Harissa is a sweet pepper paste. It's like about 5 different kinds of peppers mixed together, and then we grill the fish and brush it on there. That's going to be served with some roasted tomatoes, herb butter beans, and a pistachio basil butter. And then Matt came up with this dessert that's actually from Maine. We called it a Maine molasses and ginger crumble. It's actually like a traditional Indian pudding. It's molasses and ginger and cinnamon, and it's very flavorful. And then we're going to do that with one of our homemade gelatos, which we're going to do a maple walnut gelato to kind of complement that whole thing. So hopefully we'll see a lot, and we'll fill this one up again because it's a very popular one, and I hope to see everyone there. Oh, and sign-ups are already up there, so you could sign up whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Good afternoon, I'm Christy Turner, and I am Operations Manager of Dining Services in Central Kitchen, and I'm the Harvest Table lady. I get to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Harvest Table, and this month I'm going to talk a little bit about the salad bar, because we've gotten a few questions about what the rationale behind the salad bar, which is right in the middle of the Harvest Table, is. We feature four greens. Some of them, like the Bibb lettuce, come from the Garden Spot Village Aeroponic Greenhouse. The romaine lettuce also comes from the Garden Spot Village Aeroponic Greenhouse. Iceberg is still a very popular lettuce, and then we have a spring mix that we feature. We feature 2 grains that we try to rotate. It could be anything from a barley to a farro to a lentil to a blend that Mike finds. And then we also feature 3 proteins. One of them is usually a salmon or a tuna item. One is either a turkey or a chicken item, and one is also ham or a beef item. We feature 2 composed salads. So a composed salad is a salad that we make in the kitchen that might be something like a macaroni salad or a pasta salad or a random mixed vegetable salad that Matt makes up a really cool and creative dressing for. We have a salad of the day, which we feature as our terrace dining room salad of the day, and that has been anything from a chicken Caesar salad to a barbecue brisket salad to a shrimp Caesar salad, which is also very popular anytime there's a shrimp salad. Sometimes it's find the shrimp salad because people tend to go and grab the shrimp as it is. Finally, we feature 12 salad dressings, and we try to keep that as rotational as possible. One generally complements the salad of the day. Some of them can be homemade, and we always try to have available some of the favorites, the sweet and sour, the honey mustard, the sweet onion, the Thousand Island. But I will tell you, if you don't see your favorite salad dressing on the salad bar at that time, please ask. Ask a cashier or the cafe assistant or a manager or a cook, because it might be we did not have the spot available for that extra salad dressing that you like the best. We all have our favorites. I know of people who go out and only want the blue cheese, or somebody only wants the Italian, or the balsamic, and it's a mixed bag. We feature all of these things, but we have about 180 to 200 people that eat in the Harvest Table every day, and it's hard to keep 180 to 200 salad dressings on the salad bar at any given time. But we try to keep them in the kitchen available, and just to ask for it. We're more than happy to help you. Other highlights, on August the 14th would be our next Mindful demo. Tara Phillips is our dietitian at East, and she has a intern with her. Her name is Victoria Dahl. Victoria will be doing the next Mindful demonstration in the Harvest Table on that day at 2:30. The last time that Anthony and Tara did it, we had our biggest attendance ever. It was very engaging. They were talking about healthy eating and asking some questions, answering some questions about that. And our next Dining Ambassadors meeting is scheduled for July the 26th. That's a Thursday at 2:30 in the afternoon. We will be sending out invitations for the people who have repeatedly come, and we also will post on to Katie when the next meeting is. So we'll be happy to see you then. Thank you. It's on the calendar? Yes.
Somebody told me that you can pay for your meal at the order kiosk.
You can. You can, as long as it's programmed into the system. It's on one of the stations. For example, at the grill. On the grill part of the kiosk, you will see there's two items. One will say weekly specials, the other one will say grilled. So the weekly specials will list those 3 or 4 items that are just the special for the week. Under grill lists everything that we have, the hamburgers, the hot dogs, everything. You can place your order there. So if you want a hamburger with lettuce, tomato, and onion, you can. You keep following through. It'll give you the ability to put your name in it and pay for it right there at the kiosk. And then you can just go and enjoy your time with your friends and family at your table. If you need help with that, I'm more than happy to sit with anybody and work with them so that they understand it completely and feel comfortable with it. We'd love for everything to be made fresh, and we'd like for you to be able to sit down and just enjoy your time and not stand around and wait. It gives you a little bit more flexibility to just mingle and enjoy, and you can actually do it from the kiosks in the hallway as well. So please feel free to ask myself or another manager, and we'll be more than happy to help you through it.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure. Yes.
When it's ready, we watch the little screens and see that, okay, my order is now ready for pickup, and then I go get it.
That's correct, yes.
I've already paid for it.
Right. What it does...
Don't grab me on the way out.
I will. What it does is when you put your name in it, it'll shoot a receipt kind of thing to the cooks, and the cooks will know exactly what to make. They have the ability on their kiosks to press that when the order is complete, and it'll change on the signs. There's one in the orange room of the Harvest Table, there's one in the servery of the Harvest Table, and then there's one in the back that says your name, and it'll say order received. And then when the cook presses that it's complete, it'll say order complete, and then you can come and pick it up. It does say star, but it also says order complete. Is there anything else? Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay, so we had a light agenda, which isn't bad for July. I have 2 more things. One's very important because it's very timely. And once we get through those couple of updates, we'll have some time for questions, but we may finish 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes early. And again, it's July. Maybe that's not a bad thing. It's right. Already cheering for that, so maybe I better hurry up. So recycling. Recycling has become a big topic in about the last 6 weeks or so. And we have, here at Garden Spot Village, we use Eagle Disposal. They're local, right down the road from us, about 2 miles away. So here's a little bit of background on what happened with our recycling issues as a nation. Literally, we started dealing with this back in springtime is when it really started to hit and things. Most of our recycling that we generate as a nation it gets sold en masse as a commodity to somebody who really needs the raw materials. In this case, recently, that's been China. So we send literally tanker ships full of recycling stuff that they purchase in a kind of an open market sort of a thing, and they make it into stuff. One of the issues about our recycling has been contaminants, or things that degrade the value of that stuff once it shows up over in China. So for them as an end user, what that means is they receive all this stuff, they've paid us, because that's where the money comes back to us as the United States from. They've paid for this kind of a product, but they feel like they're getting a different, lower quality product. Now it generates more waste on their part because it's contaminated with food, or it's supposed to be dry cardboard, it's wet cardboard, and it becomes junk on their end. And the thing that they think they've paid for, they haven't actually received. So as a nation, China put together these very tight constraints on this is what recycling has to look like, or our raw material you're sending us has to look like in order for us to purchase it. That started, like I said, about springtime and things. It went into effect at the end of June. So just about 2.5, almost 3 weeks ago is when this all took effect. As a nation, we're all responding to that. Literally, statewide, countywide for us here in our smaller municipalities and things, and with our local waste haulers. So if you saw the paper yesterday, and thank you, Ruth actually got me the copy of the newspaper, we became aware of this on Friday morning, that our folks from Eagle Disposal sent forward, here are the new parameters. Now, this was official as of July 1st. We weren't receiving it until July 13th. And we started to kind of understand that a little bit, and we absolutely will be getting it out to everyone. So you'll get a copy of these new guidelines probably in the Friday mail this week, and then we'll start to post it in all of the yes, I know it's generating more paper, isn't it? It's probably going to be on Katie tomorrow morning. So you'll be able to review it tomorrow morning. But we do want to make sure everybody has it on paper. And we actually struggled about that. Are we going to generate it in paper, on paper, and do we do it in black and white or color? I was a good soldier. I printed mine in black and white. So I didn't even print it in color. You can't recycle office paper anymore. If you can believe it, office paper is no longer recyclable. Well, not through our regular means. There are haulers that will take it, because there are different markets for where recycling can go. So even though, and I'll get into some of the details here in a minute, but the things like magazines and mailings and all that other stuff is not recyclable through the normal haulers anymore. And the new slogan, unfortunately, has become, when in doubt, throw it out. Which I know is kind of the antithesis to what we've been struggling for since the 70s, for 40 years here. What I'll say to that big picture is, I think this is going to start to settle out, and it might be 6 to 12 months, and we may start to swing. So the pendulum feels like it's swinging pretty hard, away from recycle as much as you possibly can, everywhere you possibly can, that kind of a thing. Because there used to be pizza boxes and all these other, food containers and all that, and they're saying, nope, don't want any of it. When in doubt, throw it out. And we'll talk about some of those details here in just a minute. I think the pendulum is probably going to come back to somewhere in the middle, where we figure out some different users of that material, where it probably won't be going to China, maybe it stays stateside, but there's a market there. There's real value in these materials if we can get them separated out appropriately out of the waste stream. That's the problem right now, is the way the waste stream comes together, and it goes to these aggregators of stuff, and they're in the larger ports like Baltimore, New Orleans, or whatever, and it goes on these big barges, and it goes overseas, and that's it. that's where the stuff is going now. I think there's absolutely, and with capitalism behind it, I'm sure, before too long, somebody's going to realize, yes, there's value there. We're going to figure that out and make a new market for it, and we'll feel that pendulum come swinging back. So these new guidelines, that's what's in place for right now, but maybe that's not going to last it won't last forever, but we'll stay tuned and see how it may change. So let's talk about what we have specifically for Eagle disposal. I will give this caveat, and I'll try and say it a couple times. What you saw in the newspaper, that's not where our recycling goes. The newspaper was quoted for the Solid Waste Management Authority, which is Lancaster County's, for the recycling. The Solid Waste Management Authority gave parameters for 4 specific things in the newspaper. Our recycling actually goes to York County because of the ownership of Eagle Disposal. Eagle Disposal is owned by Penn Waste. They have a special single-stream recycling plant that they built, and they profit from how they process all that stuff. But what it means is they have 2 other constituents that they're able to take that the Lancaster County Solid Waste Management Authority is not able to take. So let's look at them. If you guys could scroll up just a little bit. That's good right there. So recycling these things, and we'll just go left to right. There's a lot of this that hasn't changed from what we've been doing all along. Most of it hasn't changed. There are some distinct changes. So cans, aluminum and steel in the upper left. So that doesn't change. They do ask you, rinse it out, get as much food debris out of it, and no liquids. So you don't want to have, a half a can of soda that goes in the recycle bin. You want to dump that out. You don't have to rinse the soda can kind of a thing, but at least dump it out. Plastic. Now here's one where there are some specific changes. Plastics 1, 2, and 5 are the ones that they're going to recycle only. 1, 2, and 5. So they are not recycling 3, 4, 6, or 7. They don't recycle 3, 4, 6, or 7. So,
What's that consist of?
so on the bottom, so if you have a plastic water bottle, the milk jug, whatever, if you flip it over, there's the little triangle, just like you see the little triangle with the arrows, and there'll be a number inside. Inside that triangle, that's the recycling number that goes with those plastics. So all plastics that are generated, even many lids nowadays, you'll even see the recycle number on those. Most lids are 5s. So now, those lids like from a mayonnaise jar or something, if it's tagged with that 5, that mayonnaise jar lid can be recycled. But for plastic bottles, it's only 1, 2, and 5. So if you have 3s or 4s or 6s or 7s, those are no longer recyclable. Oftentimes, those are things like yogurt containers, cottage cheese containers, butter tubs. Those sorts of things are often the ones now that aren't going to be recycled. One of the parameters they're giving is if it has a neck on it, it's probably recyclable. Just check and make sure. So something like a milk jug, it has a neck on it at the top for pouring it. It has a neck on it. It's probably recyclable. Just check and make sure. So 1, 2, and 5 for recyclable plastics. Newspapers. Clean and dry with no food contact. So they don't want any debris or anything on the newspapers. And the clean and dry part, one of their suggestions is if it's a rainy day, they ask you please keep them until the next time it's not a rainy day. So don't put them out in the rain, because if they get saturated, they go in the trash. And I have a good punchline after all this. I know this is kind of a downer, but I have a good punchline to all this that I'm going to get to at the end. So clean and dry for the newspapers, and then they're recyclable. No office paper, no magazines, no mailers, none of that stuff. It's not recyclable through this waste stream any longer. Again, when in doubt, throw it out, unfortunately. Across the bottom, glass, bottles, and jars, that basically hasn't changed. All those glass items like that, again, no lids, and the same is for the plastic jugs and things like that. Soda caps, water bottle caps, take those little lids off. If it's a larger lid and it's tagged that it's a 5 for being recyclable, you can put that lid in, a larger lid. So glass bottles and jars basically haven't changed. Corrugated cardboard, dry and flattened with no food contact. So no pizza boxes, no cereal boxes, no Jell-O boxes, any of those little things like that, that's not recyclable anymore. The cardboard has to be clean and dry, no food contact. And then if you can see this one over here, cartons. Now that's particular to Eagle Disposal and Penn Waste because of, again, how their recycling is formatted. They have a different processing unit, literally the plant where they process it, they're able to pull that stuff out of the waste stream and sell it. But that's not what you'll have, if you read the article in the newspaper, that's not what the article says. Because the article in the newspaper says those 4 on that left side. It doesn't include newspapers and cartons. But newspapers and cartons are okay for us. So what we're going to see published at Garden Spot is this posting, the one that we're looking at up on the screen, and all 6 of these things are okay, as long as they're in these conditions, that it's clean and dry, no food contact, that kind of thing. So what else can I tell you about this? Before I get to my punchline, because I do like my punchline and all this. Sure.
Is it okay for the pizza box in the trash chute, or does it have to be put in a bag?
We have the microphone. Go ahead and repeat your question there, Bill.
Concerning a trash bag, pizza bag, does it have to be put in a plastic bag to recycle and then put in the trash, or can it just be put in the trash as a pizza box?
So for apartment residents where we have the trash chutes, it would be better to put that pizza box into a bag, to scrunch it down, stomp it flat kind of a thing, and put it into a bag. Because once it gets down that chute, it actually lands in a cart down at the bottom. So if it's just a spare pizza box like that, it's more handling on the other end. It's better if that's in the bag with other things.
You sure the little carton, is the cap included?
So go ahead and repeat your
Screw-on
question.
cap, is that included or not?
So on the cartons, is the cap included? No. You would take that cap off, and the cap goes in the trash. So just the milk carton, which is interesting about their graphic. They probably should have showed it without the cap on it. Yeah. Good questions.
Did I hear you say no cereal boxes?
Correct. No cereal boxes. Yep. No pizza boxes, no cereal boxes. Any of those things that you would have around the house or around the kitchen. If it's not corrugated cardboard, if it's real cardboard, that's okay. And if it's clean and dry.
When we went to the landfill with the Grands and kids a few years ago, they said one of the reasons you want your cap off is because it's a nuisance. When they collapse things, then the caps fly off and roll all over the place. So even if you have a mayonnaise jar, I would guess that you would want to have that separate, but included.
That's right. Yeah, so very good point about taking those caps off. As they start to crush those down at the plant, if you don't take the cap off, they actually kind of explode, and it shoots that cap someplace where you don't want it. And mayonnaise jars, even if that lid is recyclable, take them off and keep them separate. That's right.
Steve, so this is eliminating the sometimes annual or semi-annual reports from all the corporations through your mutual funds and whatnot?
That remains to be seen, and that's actually beyond my purview of all this. Again, we're still getting used to this and seeing how it all shakes out, so I really don't know how it's going to affect things like that.
So right now, we cannot recycle those. We put them in the trash.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So those publishing things that have been published like that, yeah, those are no longer recyclable.
I mean, some of them are an inch thick.
Yeah. I thought you meant, Ann, when you asked the question, I thought you meant about folks that are in their report, they're saying we recycle all this great stuff. And now we're not recycling anymore. I thought that's what you meant from a financial standpoint. But now I understand what you're saying. The paper that report is printed on, is that recyclable? No, it is not.
Okay.
Larry, up front here. A follow-up question.
There are a number of people on campus who collect the newspapers to give to the farmers. And if you can make contact with people like that, it would be great.
Sure. So the comment, about making contact with local farmers. They use them as bedding in different settings around the farm. So that's definitely an option. Go ahead.
Where does styrofoam fit in?
Sure. Where does styrofoam fit in? So that is a great question. We have a unique opportunity here at Garden Spot for the blocky foam that we use in packaging and things. That is recyclable. We have 4 containers for that, and that will continue. The reason we can do that is because Dart Container is about 4 or 5 miles down the road from us, and we have a resident who has taken that on as an initiative. Dart will take that styrofoam. They don't take food containers and things like that, not styrofoam cups and whatnot, but that blocky styrofoam, we will continue to recycle that. We collect that from those bins, those collection bins, and then we take it down. They actually take it down to a receptacle down at DART, and then DART recycles that back into new stuff.
Shredded papers aren't recyclable anymore?
Shredded papers are not recyclable. That's right. So if you could scroll up the rest of the way on this graphic, up, so we can see the bottom of it. So here's their new slogan, when in doubt, throw it out. You'll see no plastic bags. So if you're throwing away newspapers, don't put them in a bag. Keep them loose and dry. That's how they would want to receive them, loose and dry, not in a bag. No food or liquids, no garden hoses, no shredded paper, no clothing, no diapers. Obviously, you're throwing diapers away, but not in the recycling. No medical waste, no scrap metal, and no styrofoam. And especially in this case, it would be styrofoam containers, food containers, that kind of a thing. Again, we'll continue to recycle styrofoam here, that blocky styrofoam that comes in packaging.
I have two questions. First, with the glass bottles and jars, or I mean the steel cans, do we have to take the labels off of that?
No. Good question. Do we have to take the labels off? No. Labels are fine.
And the second question, we generate one bag of trash a week. Now we're going to probably double or triple that. What's that going to do to the hauling cost to everybody around here?
It's perfect segue. So my punchline that I wanted to get to, that I'm excited about. Now, what does that do to the hauling cost? I don't think it's going to change the hauling cost because they were hauling either recyclables or trash. We're all producing, in effect, the same amount of stuff. It just is going to a different place. It's separating different. So here's the punchline. In Lancaster County, we have an incinerator on the west side, over by the river, by the Susquehanna River, an incinerator that makes electricity. And the turbines in that spin 24/7, 365. They're driven by trash that is burned from all of us making trash. Now that's particular to Lancaster County. So I see that in the background as a blessing because even though these materials are no longer being recycled, it's not being turned into new consumer goods or something, which, that was, again, this was raw material for China. Well, where's it going? It's not going into a landfill. For me, that's the punchline. It's going to the incinerator. It's getting burned, incinerated, to drive those turbines to make electricity. So that powers, I know there have been studies out there and things, but that powers some portion of population in the western half of Lancaster County, basically. So I kind of leave you with that thought. Stay tuned on this and watch for the handout. I know it's different, and everybody has even acknowledged it'll take us. We've worked decades to get kind of where we are, and even mentally, and how we're engaging in our recycling. It's going to take a little while to part from those ways. We have one more over here. Thank you, Charlie's hustling.
What about the prescription pill bottles?
Prescription pill bottles are not recyclable.
Not recyclable.
Those would just go in the trash.
Okay.
Just a comment, we have an incentive to do this because I noticed last week that they picked up because I didn't know this last week, they picked up our recycle with the trash. So if you don't do this, everything that you put in the recycle bin, if it's a mixture, there's things that should be there and shouldn't, they're going to throw it all in the trash.
And that's very possible. Now, we do have continuing conversation almost weekly with Eagle Disposal about those kinds of issues to make sure, are they being good stewards of the stuff that we're sending their way? Because they should be picking up recyclables in the recycling vehicles, etc.
Steve, would it be possible to get a liquid-proof container down at the coffee station? Invariably, the coffee mixture is empty, and when you go for a cup of coffee, you get a cup of water, and there's no place to put it. It either sits on the shelf or goes into the trash can or somewhere. If there were a liquid-proof container there, you could pour the water in the container, and it wouldn't be a mess.
Let's talk about that offline. Yeah. So I would need to talk with some staff about that. We could figure out a way to do that. So, yep, I will make sure that we make a note of that. So what goes to the landfill is everything else that we put in the trash. Everything that we put in the trash goes to the landfill. And it goes, I'm sorry, no, yeah, I said it the wrong way. It goes to the incinerator. Everything we put in the trash goes to the incinerator. What goes to the landfill are particular specialized trashes like construction debris. Things that have drywall in them, you can't put the drywall waste and debris through the incinerator. The small amount that somebody might put in their residential trash, that's okay if it goes to the incinerator, but something like metal stud waste and all that from construction debris, that's the kind of stuff that will go to the landfill. Okay, well, let's take one more about recycling here, and I have one more topic. Of course, we're using up our whole hour, aren't we? This is a good topic.
Steve, invariably Tuesday night when you put out the recycle, it rains. Is it possible to get Eagle to give us a lid for that bin? Keep it dry?
So is it possible for Eagle to give us a lid for the bin? No. We've made some in-house, mostly to keep things from blowing away. So the wood shop has over the years made those, but they're not meant to be watertight containers. They're obviously very breathable and they're open. The thing that it affects the most is any paper goods, and the published request on their part is if it's raining or rain is expected, please keep it until the next recycle day, the next trash day when it's not raining. That's their request at this time. Okay, one other update, and then we'll take general questions after that. Scooters and mobility devices in apartment wings. So in our handbook, we have published guidelines about in apartment wings, so this is just really right now for folks that live in the apartments, about not parking in the corridors, not parking mobility devices in the corridors. We've talked about it at the apartment council meeting. We had some follow-up with social services, and Cheryl Lynn and I have talked through this. So we want to put that admonition out there. Please don't park your mobility devices in the hallway. If you have a hardship with that or need to talk through that further, absolutely see me, see Cheryl Lynn. We can talk through that more. The big concern are access to the handrail is one, and the fact that they are residential corridors. It's not as much of an issue if it's outside the share and care. We have items in the hallway outside the creamery. We have folks that park along those edges. Those are not frequented. People aren't living next door to that. And there is plenty of egress width in those corridors and things for folks to be able to get by. It's not that case in the resident hallways, especially if you have something parked on either side of the hallway. Now you've really constrained how much is passable in between. So want to make that note. Again, if you have questions about that, feel free to see me, see Cheryl Lynn. We will be keeping those conversations going here in the coming weeks and months. But any of those mobility devices, walkers, scooters, electric wheelchairs and things really need to be in your apartments and not out in the corridors. Okay, that's the end of the content. We're almost at 3 o'clock, but we could take a couple more questions. And Dwayne, we'll start with you up front. He's bringing the microphone for you.
From the kitchen, we have lots of plastic containers that we fill with salads and so on and so forth and take home. Or what do we do with those?
Sure, the plastic containers, you mean like the clear, what we sometimes call the clamshell ones. Yeah, those would go in the trash. Yep, at this point, those would go in the trash. Until we have a different resource or a different way to recycle or do something with those go in the trash.
Steve?
Oh. 1 second.
Oh.
Go ahead, Clarice.
I shouldn't bring something from home that I've washed and is clean. I shouldn't bring that down to the salad bar to refill.
Correct. So the question is about like the salad bar. The state regs, the state health code and Department of Health kind of regs would be against that. You're not allowed to bring your own containers to the salad bar and fill it up. It has to be a clean, dry, new container. So the ones that have gone through our dish room by the approved process can be used, obviously, or a brand new container. Good question. Yeah.
Steve, I know of several people, probably many people, do not use the garbage disposal units in our apartments or cottages. So you've got bones and meat and who knows what all going in the trash. Is that also going to the incinerator?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
They incinerate food?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. Now these are really good questions. I would love to know more about the incinerator. Now, I know some folks took the trip, like Grands and Kids did, I guess 2 years ago. It's not, it's an industrial process. It's not a lightweight process. So whatever you could throw at it, it could take. Now, some of those things like structural members or drywall or something like that, that should really go in the landfill, and it's compacted and, you know, out of the way and special. But it actually helps to send some of that food waste to the incinerator because of that decaying matter in the landfill. Eventually, it does break down, and that's a whole different process of what happens in the landfill and things. But yes, so all that stuff, whatever it is that we throw in the trash, it all goes to the incinerator. Great questions. Very good. Anything else? I know that's a big topic. Stay tuned for more information. Watch for the handouts. Watch for it on Katie. We'll post that. There is a sheet of generally asked questions. We're going to post that on Katie as well, so it has some of the stuff that we just talked about here. Last question.
I think I read in the minutes from some cottage or apartment meeting or something, they talked about coffee containers, the throwaway ones, and they said it was suggested that you could bring your own coffee container and get coffee.
Yes. So at the so the question is about the actual coffee dispensers. Absolutely.
For
yes.
water also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And because
It's
those
just
are
not for food.
Because those are dispensers, and they're it's a custom dispensing. You know, you're only putting in how much you want, that kind of a thing. Those are fine. If you use your own coffee mug, your own Go Cup, or anything like that for the coffee or the water. Yeah. Good question. Okay, so we even went 2 minutes over. Thank you. Any other questions? See us at Coffee and Conversation. Have a good day.
then
Well,
after
then you're
that,
really qualified.
after that, I got into Compassion International, the other group, Compassion. We would go around children's packets, these called children's packets with people who sponsor children in third world countries. So I did that for about 8 years. And we would go to concerts like Michael Douglas Smith or something would have a concert. And there we could have a table with all the children. Hopefully some of the people in the concert would come and say, oh, I would like to take that child from Peru, or I'd like to sponsor that child from Kenya. And so we got
Were there
the
to
children
do
to
that.
sponsor. And so, then I went to Ethiopia, and I went to Rwanda, because I sponsored 2 children in Rwanda, got to see my children in their homes. And then we had a little girl in Peru, and we had another little girl in Kenya. So, and then after that, I'm always getting into something. Then after Compassion, then I started the Alpha course. Did you ever hear of the Alpha course? Oh, Pastor Chet had it one time here. It started in Britain, and it is, has to do, there's like 15 talks on DVD. It's like, who is Jesus? What did Jesus do? Who is the Holy Spirit? How do we pray? And what they did is, we would not meet in a church. We would meet someplace where people would come that would not enter a church. So we would meet in, yes?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the
Oh, is this your other half?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I
Yes.
thought, oh, I wonder
This
what
is
that
my
gentleman,
Velma.
I wonder what that gentleman was. And I thought, oh, you were going to maybe come in and turn off the lights.
No.
Tell us to get out.
Maybe you should turn off the lights, because I don't know where to turn them off.
I think they leave them on most of
Do
the
that,
they do.
do that. Well, to be,
Okay, go
to
ahead.
be continued, I guess, Janet.
Yeah, but that lets me know you're qualified and ready to do it.
I'm ready.